record button. So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for coming along. Today's session is on big data, and I'm delighted to welcome along some great speakers from Anaeko and Allsop software, intelligent software solutions. So this is a project that is funded by Invest Northern Ireland, all the local councils and the European Union. So you'll see that at the bottom of my slides anyway. So our agenda this morning, I'm going to do a quick welcome and introduction, and then we are welcoming along Jake Carville and Zach Massey from Software Solutions. Also provides custom-built software for their users, meeting their way of working, reducing data entry and improving productivity, which I'm sure resonates with a lot of you here today. And their customers include people like Life, Cisco Foods, and Tyrone Fabrication. Their primary focus is food and beverage manufacturing and construction companies, but they can really work with anyone. Just it's getting those conversations going. So they're leaders in providing and implementing digital transformation. We'll have a break after that, and it's Colm Hayden. Bit of a typo there. Excuse me, Colm. And so Colm is the CTO of Anaeko, based in Belfast, and in Skillen, or Fermanagh anyway, as well, but with really a focus on the North American and European markets as well as locally. They deliver secure, scalable and reliable data optimization services to large enterprises, technology innovators and research agencies in highly regulated industries across the public and private sector. Anaeko enables customers and partners to make more timely and better quality decisions and to deliver more innovative and efficient services by leveraging available data and platforms, and they call that data optimization. Colm himself is an experienced entrepreneurial and commercially focused leader, and over the past 2 decades, he's been CTO to cloud software and service companies, technical director to industry networks, technical lead on open standards, and a business network founder. And I'm sure Colm can give you more of an introduction to himself, and Jake and Zach too. This is part of the Digital Surge programme, as I mentioned, which is funded by Invest and the councils and the European Union. Everyone is very welcome to come along to these workshops and masterclasses, and there's still more running into the new year as well. If you want to apply for the 6 days of fully funded mentoring support in those technologies listed there, blockchain, big data, AI, machine learning, IoT, cobotics and robotics, and immersive technologies like augmented virtual reality, you have to be a company with under 50 employees registered in Northern Ireland. There are some places left, but not very many. And if you are interested in that, I would suggest you submit the very brief expression of interest form, and there's a QR code there in the corner. As part of that dedicated support, you get an innovation diagnostic and an innovation plan, the 6 days of mentoring support, and a digital acceleration plan to really help you. The mentor will explore the technology with you and how it can help your business, and then the digital acceleration plan is onward. What to do next, a strategic plan of how to get that technology implemented. And we've had great feedback from the companies who've been through the programme already, so it really is worth even having the initial chat to see if it's of interest. So next up on our agenda, we have artificial intelligence and machine learning on the 14th of December. One of the speakers at that will be FP McCann, who through a KTP project from Innovate UK have done a fantastic piece of work on using artificial intelligence for quality control, and it has had a huge impact on their efficiencies and sustainability. But that's a great one. It's really interesting to see how such a traditional industry making something you would think as straightforward as concrete pipes, is really, really embracing digital transformation. We have an innovation session on the 10th of January, and we have an immersive tech session on the 11th of January, which is not yet on Eventbrite, but that QR code leads you to the link to register for all of them. So if you just want to save that or search for an Eventbrite, it should be up shortly. So I am going to hopefully launch a poll. Give me 1 second. There's always a bit of faffing about here when I do that. I'm going to stop share and I'm going to launch this poll. It's really not very scientific, but it's to give the presenters and me, I suppose, as well, just a bit of an insight into where you are in your big data journey. Some of you might just be here to find out a bit about the technology. Some of you may be, oh, listen, we could actually be running this presentation for you. Okay, so we've got about 50% are just curious, haven't started their journey. They're here to find out a bit more. 15%, we know we can be doing something, but we haven't started. About a quarter of you were dabbling, and 5%, we've got this. Super, thank you. There we go, you can see that. I'm going to go back into.
Sanctions filed to leave the marsh, so we'll see if there's any more feedback from that one. Support Francesca to following up on. Jeremy just reminds me we talked about Q test filed. Is it yesterday?
Okay, so this is really a high level overview of big data. So there's a lot of definitions out there, but they all sort of come back to this. Let me see how many Bs we've got. 5 Bs. There used to be 4. They added a 5. So there's a lot of it. It comes very fast. There's different types. It's of quality, and you can rely on it, and it's of value. So that's really what a very high level of big data. But I think really it's just too big for a spreadsheet would be how I would put it. And you need a bit more help to do it. Companies may think, oh, I don't have any data, but you'll have data from sales, transactions, from electronic sales systems, operational data if you have plant or equipment, real-time data. You'll have emails, you'll have open data, which I'll actually come on to in a second as well, and then social media. I mean, there's so many different types. There's structured, unstructured, all types of data. So don't be thinking, oh, I must find out how I get big data. You probably already have it. Oh, gone too far. So just when I mentioned open data there, I noticed I was trying to get somebody from Open Data NI on the webinar today, but unfortunately it was just a short notice because I noticed this. So Open Data NI, if you don't know this resource, it's a great resource. It's all the open data sets that the public sector and government here release for people, and it can be a real benefit to businesses as well. But they have launched an open data fund, and the applications are open until March next year. So there's, although that sounds loads of time, it's really 3 months away. It's really a fund to say, you know, if you can say, look, we could use open data in an innovative way, you can be awarded between 300 and up to £5,000. So I will share this link to this, but it's worth a look if that's something you're interested in. I'm just going to put that in the chat if I can find it. Oh, sorry, I thought I'm coming. I might do this in a second. All right, got it. So there is the link to that open data fund. Just looking here to see if I can see the guys from Allsop. Jake, I can see there, sorry, just looking. Jake, if I make you host, is that okay? Or is Zach, Jake or Zach?
Yeah, no worries. No worries. You want to make both of us hosts, if that's okay, Gillian?
I'll make you, if I make you host first, Jake, and then
Yeah.
make Zach host, is that okay?
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Thank you. Sorry. So Jake and Zach are going to just talk about some of the work they've done and then give a very high level overview of Power BI as well.
Correct. Let me just share my screen here. Okay, hopefully that should be sharing. And you don't see any, like, I haven't used Zoom that much. There's not like, can you see these Zoom windows down the side and at the top?
No, I know that's
No.
really off-putting, and they're always in front of the button that you need. Yes.
I know it's a bit weird. I'm too used to Teams. But no, we'll deal with it. Okay, so yeah, thanks, Gillian. So yeah, we're going to talk about Power BI today. So it's a really interesting tool. And so a bit about us. So there'll be two of us talking today. So it's myself, Jake, and there's Zach on the right there. And we're both business intelligence developers. That's the job title. We've been using Power BI for about seven years now. So I think it was officially released by Microsoft in 2015, and we've been using it since more or less that time. And we both work for a company called Allsop Software. So very quickly, a bit about Allsop. We're a Belfast-based software development business, and we've been going for 25 years. We worked with over 100 clients and delivered over 500 projects. A lot of them are automating and improving tedious manual processes, paper-based stuff, streamlining things. That's what we're all about. And the majority of our business is conducted via partnerships. So a lot of sort of repeat business, which is quite good for us. And there's just some examples of different companies we've worked with in the past. So that's a bit about us, a bit about who we work for, and we'll jump into Power BI. So I'll keep this up, Zach, if you want to go through this slide, and then you can take over presenting after going through this slide.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. Yeah, so Power BI is part of the business analytics service created by Microsoft, and it is part of the Power platform, which also includes things like Power Automate and Power Apps, if you've ever heard of them.
This webinar, so we've got them here.
The aim with Power BI was to create a tool that was simple enough for end users to produce reports without extensive backgrounds in data. I myself, my background, I had a degree in biology and was just out of university and started working for consultancy, which got us to use Power BI for some clients, and basically have gone since there for the past 7 years, as Jake said. So yeah, it's an intuitive tool. You don't need to be like hyper well versed in the data world to get to grips with at least the basics of it anyway. It's used to collect data from a variety of sources, which I'll show as part of my demo. I'm going to show how we connect to some of the data sources, and while I do that, I'll just give you a brief look at the variety of data connection types you can make. Data can be transformed and cleaned within Power BI. We're not always so lucky to have clean data to work with, so that's a really important benefit to using Power BI, is that it can actually take the role of cleansing the data as well as visualizing it. And once you've gotten through all of that, the transformation, the cleansing, data is then used to generate interactive visuals to help users make sense of their data. Unless there's anything you want to ask, Jake, I'm going to share my screen and take us to the Power BI desktop too.
Yeah, perfect. I'll stop sharing here. So Gillian, if you can make Zach host. And so yeah, Zach's going to take us through the building blocks of building a report, and then I'll take over in a bit and show you some examples of reports we've built in the past.
Great, Jake, I'll do that now. Will you, I think you can make Zach host if you go over to Zach's little
Yeah.
black box and click on the three. If you hover over it, there's a wee blue icon comes up in the corner. And then if you click on that, it should say make
Right.
host.
Yeah, let me try think that fast. Yeah, got it. That should be nice, Zach.
Yeah, a whole lot more options just appeared there. So let's. Yeah, just let me know if you can see my screen there, if that's all right. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of some of the functionalities within the Power BI tool. It being high level, I mean, there's probably a whole breadth and depth of things I could talk about, but it would take a lot longer. But if I think we're going to put some contact details in the chat afterwards. So if you have any specific questions about things you're wondering if Power BI could do or if it could be used for, feel free to get in touch with us. I'm always happy to help if we can. So this is the Power BI desktop editor. I've just opened up a fresh empty file, no data loaded into it, no visualizations built. And I've done that because I want to show you how quickly you can create visuals basically, and how easy it is compared to something like, I don't know, Excel, or if there's anyone out there who uses Python or R to create them, things like that. So yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of options just already, and probably won't be able to go through in detail about all of them, but I'll show you sort of the main zones. So you have your ribbon at the top here, kind of standard to all Microsoft tools like PowerPoint, Word, etc. But the options are a bit different. So you've got, this is the home one where you connect to your data types, insert where you can add visuals, add text boxes, shapes, buttons, etc. Modeling, that's where you can do some calculations. View is stuff like arranging your visuals, you know, like you would layer in a PowerPoint. This one's over on top of another, etc. You can change the theme of the report as well. So you can set your default color schemes, or you can customize them to create your own, which is something we actually do quite a bit when we're working with a client to try and get it to fit their color palettes and such. Then you have your help section, which has your documentation, your training, etc. External tools. These are just things you can use to help improve the performance of the reports, which is important when you're working with large data sets or more complicated reports where a lot of visuals are required. So to start with, I'm going to bring in some data, because without data, I'll not be able to show you a lot of the features. So you can see this wee section here. It's got some of the frequently used ones like Excel, SQL, Data Hub, which is actual Power BI data sets online that you can connect to. So if your organization already has a Power BI data set uploaded, you can just connect directly to it and work with that data. But I'm going to go into the generic get data one just to show you the variety of options. So again, here's a commonly used list: Excel, data flows, text, CSV. You can even take tables from websites. You can connect to SharePoint, OneDrive, etc. But if I click more, once this loads, yeah, so this huge list is actually everything Power BI is capable of connecting to at the minute. And Power BI actually gets updated on a monthly basis. Well, roughly monthly. They've slowed down a bit, but they're always adding new connectors to it. But you're also not limited by what's listed here, because there are users out there who come up with custom connectors. And once those reach a certain point, I think they usually get validated by Power BI and brought into this list. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to use an Excel workbook that I found online. So I've selected Excel. I just hit connect. Financial sample, that's the data I want. Hit open. And it'll open up a window that should allow me to pick what tab in the Excel, what sheet I want to use. Yep. So I'm going to choose financials here. Just tick that. You can see a quick preview of the Excel. Those columns look familiar. Everything looks good. Hit load. Give it a second. It's loading in. Yeah, 700 rows sounds about right. So I've seen financials appear on the right-hand side in my fields list. So that's basically where all the data you've loaded into or connected to Power BI is listed in here. So it'll be broken down as tables. So if I saw 3 different rows here, I know I've got 3 different tables or data sets, but I can also expand out the data set to see the fields actually within there. And those are the column names of what I have to work with. Another way to view that the data that's been imported looks okay is by going to the data view over here on the left. So it just shows me essentially that whole table. Yeah, so I can do a quick assessment. Does my data look okay? Is it ready to use? Everything looks fine here. And another option you have is your model view, which is more useful when you have multiple data sets. But say I had 3 or 4 different tables, like I have a table for financials, I have a table for personnel, etc. I can create links between those, so I can use those 2 data sets together, which is a bit handier than something like in Excel, having 4 or 5 different spreadsheets open. You'd have them all within Power BI and all able to work with them all together. Sorry. So now that I've quickly shown you that, I'm just going to go back to the report view. So this is the canvas area. This is where you'll build your visuals. I've already briefly touched on the fields list, but the next part is the visualizations pane. So all of these icons here, they're all the different types of visual that you can use Power BI to create with this data. It can range from simple things such as bar charts, column charts, line charts, to more ones with more unique uses such as waterfall charts, tree charts, gauges. You can even use AI visuals. So Power BI has some inbuilt AI that can analyze your data and look for outliers or trends. And this particular one here, Key Influencers, looks at your data that you've put in and tries to determine likely factors causing certain trends or outliers. I probably won't be able to cover that in this session, but it is an interesting tool that we sometimes try to add to our what the reports we produce for the client, just as a bit of added value. Oh, I should also mention that you can click here and click Get More Visuals, which will take you to the Power BI App Store. And that's where members of the community can actually make custom apps. So say I wanted a word cloud visual, I can just find it on here and I can import that into the report and use that. So if there aren't any visuals that are meeting your specific needs here, there's a good chance someone's put them on the App Store and you can download them to use in Power BI. Some are certified by Microsoft, some are not. The ones obviously certified are a bit more reliable in terms of performance and such. So the next thing I wanted to go over was then we've brought the data in, and it's how easy it is to make a visual with Power BI. And it literally is a case of choosing a column. So I'm going to choose, let's say I want to view my data, my sales by year. So I'm just going to drag year into the canvas. So it's made a blank square here. Now that's telling me that it has a value, but it doesn't have a category. So I want to see, I actually want year to be my category, not the value. So I'm just going to drag that up to the x-axis. So yeah, it's gone blank again. And if I bring sales in as my y-axis, it's made a very quick column chart that's showing me my sales broken down by year. So this data only has 2 years worth of data, but if I hover over, I can see 2013 has 26.5 million in sales and 2014 has 92. So yeah, it's literally drag and drop. And once you have your visual made, you can click up here to format it, and you can change things like if you go into general, I can change the title. So I can just change that to say sales by year instead of sum of sales by year. If I go back to visual, I can change the colors of the bars. So I want 2013 to be orange or whatever color that is. Yeah, there's a lot of formatting options in here actually. So you can turn on data labels as well. You can give the visual a background. They're very customizable. Not all visuals will have the same variety of customization options, but there will be some degree of it. It'll depend on what you're using. I'll do another quick example. So I want to view by country actually this time. So I'm going to click country, and Power BI has a bit of intelligence when it reads your data at determining the data type. So it's quickly understood that, my country column is geographical data. So instead of creating a bar chart or column chart by default, it's gone straight to a map. It's currently just showing the countries that they have data for. But if I add in one of these other columns, so let's say units sold as my bubble size, you can see that the bubble sizes have changed to reflect the what's the ratio of the units sold is being sold in each country. So if I hover over again, I can see Canada's got, well, it's not formatted very well. Let me just add a comma. Oh, didn't work. Comma, it's got, is that 2 million? 247,000. Yeah, and then I'll quickly just do another one. So this time, instead of dragging and dropping, I'm going to specifically choose what visual I want. So I just want a table, and it's created this blank visual. And again, all I have to do is either drag which fields I want in. So I'm going to throw in a few different ones here. I want date, I want country, I want product, and I want profit. And it's quickly pulled together a table showing all of those for me. Obviously, I've made that look very quick and easy, but that depends heavily on the quality of your data as well. Luckily, this one's nicely structured, probably due to the fact I downloaded it from Microsoft's website as like a sample data. But as we mentioned before, one of the strengths of Power BI is the ability to cleanse and transform data. And to do that, we use something called the query editor, the Power Query editor. So to access it, we just click transform data up here, and it opens up a new window. Just let it load for a second, load the data in. Yeah, so in here is where I can apply transformations to the data set. Everything up here essentially is a different type of transformation you can apply. It can range from removing, a set number of rows, changing data types. You can add custom columns using formulas in Power BI. You can add conditional ones that are kind of like an if statement in Excel. Say if this value is greater than this value, show me this in your new column. You can change dates to show as their month, their year, their quarter. There's more advanced ones like pivoting data, merging data, two data sets together, either appending them on top and bottom of each other or merging them in like a join. And one of the best features I find about this query editor is on the right-hand side here, you have the applied steps, which basically shows you the steps that have been applied to this data set in the sequence that they're applied. So first source, it's connecting to the Excel navigation. It's going to the financials sheet. Change type, Power BI is automatically tried to interpret what data type each of these are. It doesn't always get that right because sometimes there might be issues where someone's accidentally put a letter in a numeric column. So you may have to go in and manually fix that, but it's very easily done in the query editor. I don't think I've really ever encountered an issue with the data that I couldn't solve in Power Query. I'm just going to add a few more steps here just to show you how it would look if you were modeling your data in here. So let's say I don't want to view data for the government segment. So I just click this downward arrow and I can untick government and it's filtered out from the data source. Let's say for some reason I also want segment to be in capitals. So I'll go to the transform ribbon, hit format, hit uppercase, and everything's now uppercase. And you can see in the right, those two steps have been added to the applied steps sequence. And that means that when I refresh the data set, I don't have to apply those steps again to it. Say if you were building a report or visual in Excel or something like that, you'd have to rebuild it every time. This will just, you hit refresh and it works through these steps for that data set every time, saving you a lot of time that you can put in elsewhere, which is, I think, very powerful, especially when there's, we have a few clients that we've worked with recently who have very extensive reporting processes, and they've probably got like 10 to 15 tables down here, and the queries are huge. So being able to make that quick and repeatable for them they're already saying it's a massive benefit, and I definitely think it's something that Power BI has as a feather in its cap.
Yeah, it's a huge time saving. Like people would I think most companies have teams of people that would maybe spend sometimes days getting reports ready for month end and stuff like that there. And a lot of times you can, as Zach said, automate the manual transformations, no more copying and pasting and doing pivot tables and stuff. That still serves its purpose, but a lot of the time you can automate some of that and get people actually analyzing the data rather than making the reports.
Yeah, definitely. Like automate as much as you can, because even if it doesn't feel that long when you do some things, they do add up over time. And there's also like the less risk of human error as well if there are things like copying from one sheet to another, stuff like that. Power BI does, as long as you've programmed the steps correctly, it'll alleviate all those issues. So now I've added these changes, I'm just going to hit close and apply to load them into the model. So we'll give that a second to load. And I'll go to the data view just to show that the changes have taken effect. You can actually see the visuals changed a bit there as well. Yeah, that's down from 90 million to 53. And if I go in here, click segment, I can see government no longer exists there. It's in all caps, so everything's worked as I needed it to. Yeah, and that's just a quick example of how you can transform your data readily. The next section then I want to touch on, now that we've built a few visuals and shown how you can clean up the data, is the interactivity that Power BI provides to end users. I think this is another one of its main strengths. It's that it has a few different features that you can use in reports that allow users to, when you share it with them, to interact with and sort of answer the questions that they might have about the data on their own. So for this one, actually, I'm just going to add another column to the x-axis. I'm going to add in month name. So I've just created a hierarchy there in that visual, and that means I can now use the drill down feature, which are these arrow symbols that have appeared. So if I click these two arrows here, it goes to the next level in the hierarchy. So instead of showing by year, it will show by month. So there's my monthly views. It's sorted from largest to smallest. So October had the highest sales that year, March had the lowest. I can change that as well to be, highest to lowest, lowest to highest, or sort it by month name instead. So you can view the trend over the year. But because I've drilled down just fully to the next level, it's actually summed up the values for each month for that year. So this 10 million is for 2013 and 2014's October months. If I just want to see the values for one specific year, I can drill back up and click the singular arrow. This turns on drill mode, which you can tell by it's got a black circle around it now. So now that that's on, if I click on one of these bars, let's say 2014, it now drills down to the months just for 2014. So now I can see that in October for 2014, it was 6 million. And September was actually had its lowest sales for that month. If I go back up and do the same for 2013, 2013 only has 4 months of data, but I can see the highest and lowest here as well. So I'm just going to go back up. That's the drill mode. You can add as many levels to the hierarchy as your data set will allow, really. But yeah, a lot of times we'll use it for time series data like that, but you can also add, hierarchies of personnel, so your managers, sub-managers, team members, etc. Any hierarchy that you have in the data, you can be visualized. The next feature I wanted to show then involves a new type of visual as well. So it's called a slicer. You can use these in Excel, so they might be familiar to some of you, but they're basically filters that you can dynamically apply to the report. So I'm going to use product as my choice here. And it's made a quick list of the different products that this company offers. So if I tick one of these, it will filter all the data in the report to be just for that product, Amarilla. Untick that. I want to see Cara Terra, and again, the data is changed to reflect the data only for that product. You can also select multiple products at once. So say for some reason we want to ignore Amarilla, Velo, we just leave them unticked, or you can just click the erase button here and return to your default view. You can also use it for dates as well. They have a few more options in terms of what slicers you can show. So I'll pick dates. So you can have a slider, you can set the range that you want to show data for. You can do relative dates, which you could say like, okay, show me dates in the last 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. or you could just do it as a drop down or a tick box as we have for the product. But that's another way that when you upload the report, users are able to query the data themselves by making these selections, rather than having to go and pivot the data or write their own query or ask someone else in the team if they can put together this report for them. It allows them to answer their own questions effectively. And similarly to the slicer, another option is cross filtering, wherein you can click a data point on one visual and it will filter the rest of the visuals on the report to reflect that selected data point. So I want to filter these to show only data for Canada, the table in the column chart here. All I have to do is click Canada and you can see that it's filtered down. And the table is only showing Canada rows. And I can see that of the total 52 million for 2014, 11 million of it was Canada. If I click North America, same thing. I can see it's 13 million in 2014. And it's just another usability feature that Power BI has that lets users interrogate their own data more readily than they otherwise would be able to. See what else was there? Yeah, I think that was the main points I wanted to go over in the desktop editor. So now I'm just going to quickly move to the Power BI online service. So if we go here, this is our Allsop showcase workspace. So you can create workspaces to upload your reports to. We usually break them down by client or project or something like that. But yeah, just a quick overview. This lets you upload your desktop files here. And then once they're uploaded, you can use the access feature to share them with who you want to be able to view in your organization, who you want to be able to view those reports, and they'll receive an email that'll link them to it, and then they can view the report in their browser or on their mobile device at their convenience. Other features are you're able to set up the refresh time, so you can set up how frequently you want the data to refresh. I can't show that because I don't own that that dashboard, but you can set it to refresh, 2 or 3 times a day, once a day, depending on your license, even more than that. So you can keep your data as up to date as you possibly can. And the other feature was that when you go into your report, you can actually export it as PDFs or PowerPoints. So, you can quickly put together reports PowerPoint presentations and stuff like that, that if you need to have them for a meeting, or you can export the underlying data itself in like Excel format. So if there is a visual that you're like, oh, I really want to see the detail behind this, I want to see the individual numbers, you could export that and have a look at it and do what you want from there in Excel yourself. There are probably a lot of other features that I've not gone over in both desktop and the service, but I'm going to hand back over to Jake and he's going to walk you through some of these these Power BI reports we produced in the showcase, just to show you the variety of reports you can produce. So I have to make you a host again, Jake?
Yeah, so you click on participants and then it should be at the top of the list, I think. Perfect. Thank you.
That should be,
Okay. Screen's quite hidden there. You're right, it is. Awkward the way it's over stuff. Okay. We're in there now. Yeah, so this is our showcase dashboard. These are examples of stuff we've done for different clients, but obviously the data is made up for this purpose. So this is a report, probably quite similar to data-wise to the reports Zach just showed you, except it is a bit nicer presented. So you see it's formatted quite well, colors are consistent, and quite neat and tidy. And yeah, same sort of principle. We can click on, say, October 17 and see, right, what's our top 5 products for that month, customers, et cetera, what counties are we selling most of our products into. And again, you've got your slicers down the side. If I want to see, I don't know, BMW M3, for example, you'll see, right, where are we selling parts, what's the trend for that data. So yeah, it's quite nice and user friendly, I would say. people tend to like the map visual, so I'll move into a different map visual that we have. So this is uh, sorry, Jill, you saying something there?
Yeah, if you just make sure, if everyone just make sure they're on mute, please. A wee bit of background noise.
I think I've
Thank
muted a few
you.
people there. Perfect. Yeah, so this is data for basically Dublin City, and it involves things like clean up patrol. So you're able to see things like, right, where's the hot spots for, I know, litter being collected, for example, where do we have to put more people to collect litter more often? So you're able to, I suppose, find the hot spots and actually zoom in to see, right, these are all actual individual data points, but collectively you can see, right, there's maybe a problem on this street. I don't know what street it is. Jervis Lane. There's maybe a problem with litter there, for example. And similarly, there's one there and one here as well. So it's quite cool. You can zoom in. It's quite a nice sort of user experience, especially with the map, the buildings, etc. And again, you can choose your date range. You can say, right, show me instead of litter, show me, like, I don't know, whatever other activities they have. I can't even remember the activities offhand. The only one that comes to mind is litter. But yeah, quite a cool one. The other one that I'll show you is this sales rep performance. So this was, I think, just an Excel report previously, and you'll see high level. They wanted to view how the reps were performing year to date and versus the same time last year. So overall, you can see, right, as a business, we're down about 30% versus where we were last year. But again, I can tailor this a bit more. If I want to look at Linda's performance, you can see Linda's down about 25%. And you can see here, like, the purple's current year, gray's last year. So like up until about this point, so up until about May, she was actually outperforming last year. And similarly, you can see, right, selling a lot into Armagh here, but is the profit margin that great? For example, we're selling less into Wexford, but our profit margin is higher in Wexford. So there's cool things there you can look into. The other thing is, if you want to find out more detailed information about the reps in this case, what you can do is right click and I can go drill through to product analysis. So again, I've right clicked on Linda and I want to see the product analysis for Linda. So you'll see this is Linda, and this is like a real more detailed version of the data that makes up that higher level. So I want to see, right, what products is Linda selling really, really well? What products is she not selling? Customers that are good, customers that aren't. And again, you've got this all the products here, so you can see, right, what products are we doing well on this year versus last year, etc., etc. So you can go from that sort of high level view to the more detailed view quite easily, and it just means you can chop and change your data around quite a bit, and relatively easily as well, which is quite good. We tend to find a lot of people seem to like the high level view and then have another tab or be able to drill through to the actual detail. So for example, if I wanted to take this table out into Excel and do my own analysis on it, I can do that. I can hover over any of these visuals, to be honest, and export the data to Excel. So it's a feature people like. And the final report I'll show you is this is just a bit more. It's quite a simple report, but it's quite powerful. So this is looking at declining accounts. So what customers basically aren't purchasing as much as they were prior. So if I pick a good customer, so say for example, customer 7869. So you can see that this week we've sold £4,000 to them, but there's some leakage there that we've identified. And how we've done that is it's on a product level. So you'll see this particular product, on average per week, in the past 13 weeks, they've spent about £768 on that product. So far this week, they've only spent £129. So there's a potential loss to the business there. Are they buying that product from someone else? Do we need to contact them to say, we've noticed you're not buying as much as this? Is there anything we can do about price, etc., etc.? So it's quite a cool view with a bit of analysis there. But yeah, quite a simple report, but really, really powerful. And if I hover over this line, this is giving me more information for that product. So I'm able to see, right, how's my average made up of? You can see the performance the past 13 weeks and what days they typically purchase that product on. So if I know they usually buy on a Friday and on Wednesday they haven't bought that item yet, there's no point in me contacting them because I know they always buy it on a Friday, for example. So yeah, that's that. I know I've flown to that. I just want to show you just a few examples of some of the stuff we've done so far. But the final thing I'll bring up is back to the PowerPoint. So yeah, what our advice to everyone on the call would be is, if you haven't used Power BI before, I'd say just have a go. It's free to download. If you've used Excel before, it should be relatively familiar to you. You should be comfortable enough in it, I would think. And the only way you can really improve is by using it. So yeah, have a go, get some sample data that you have, and just play about with it, see what you can come up with. Try and identify maybe pain points or areas of improvement. So is there someone doing manual reporting every quarter? Can we maybe do that in Power BI and get them doing something more productive? And yeah, if you want to chat to either myself or Zach further, I'll paste our links to our LinkedIn and also our company website in the chat if you want to pick up anything with us. So I think we're just a bit over time there, Gillian. So do you want to, is there any time for questions if anyone has any for a couple of minutes? Or
I think so. I have like one observation, like Zach was saying, his background, is biology. And I think that is really, it's just so relevant to a lot of people. Like people think, oh, I can't use these tools. I'm not a computer, I didn't do software development or whatever. But it's knowing I think the main thing is the tools are very intuitive. And once you start using them, you really get a hang of it. But it's, your business, what the value of the data, what insights you need. I think that's the main thing. And it's just using the tool. It's like anything, like once you start using it, you just start to get a handle on it. And I was thinking as well about open data. If you can import open data, it might need a wee bit of cleaning and stuff. But you could maybe, say you were a business to consumer company and you noticed a drop in sales, you could maybe import data about, the cost of living or weather or something, and see, over time, where are the correlations that you can predict, spikes or drops or whatever on all the open data. Traffic, if you're an actual bricks and mortar store or something like that, there's probably lots of other insights rather than just what you have internally as well that you could bring in.
Absolutely.
And Rebecca had asked, and I know you've sort of asked given her an answer in the chat. Rebecca had asked, that data that and obviously it was supplied by Microsoft. You know, here's one we made earlier. It was
Yeah.
absolutely perfect. In real life, that's not necessarily the case. So Rebecca was sort of saying, you know, that's very pristine.
Yeah, one of
Really
the
take-
things that does end up being like a unintentional outcome from this kind of work when the data isn't clean is highlighting to the business how they could improve their data, like where there's gaps that's not being populated for whatever reason. But it's a lot of the time they're like, oh, that's something that, like, we'll be talking to an IT guy and they're like, I've been trying to push this for like this to them, they're like higher ups for so long. I've just never had like something like the Power BI as a demonstration of where those gaps are, if you know what I mean, like which team's better at filling out certain things about their staff. It can be something as small as that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah, the data, often the data is never ideal. Maybe if you have something like a SQL database, usually you're happy enough, but a lot of times most stuff's on spreadsheets, I suppose, especially for smaller businesses, which is grand, but spreadsheets, obviously there's not as much control over the quality of the data. So yeah, it can be difficult. But I suppose once, as Zach said, once people start to see the output, they understand, right, we need good quality data to feed into the report, and this is why we need the data pretty much.
Yeah, and sometimes it pushes them towards looking into more comprehensive like data storage solutions like a SQL database rather than having 6 different Excel spreadsheets or something.
Yeah.
I think Rebecca's trying to ask a question, but the mic isn't on. Do you want to fire it in the chat there, Rebecca, and I can read it out?
Hello?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Oh, good. For some reason, I'm getting such feedback now. For some reason, my normal microphone isn't working. Okay. So can I just, you mentioned a very good point there, Gillian, about if you had an ability to clean the data and so on, and Zach and Jake, you were talking about the fact that you're having difficulties, well, not difficulties, you have great abilities, but a lot of it arduous tasks with cleaning and so on. Bit of a sales pitch in a sense. We have a product, Lintel, which takes the data in and it cleans it for you and provides you with reports at the end to show you exactly where fields may be missing or data may be incorrectly populated in the wrong columns, or it's anomalous data and so on. So maybe it could be something that, and it's open source as well. So it's maybe something we could catch up on at some point to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to paste it into the chat, maybe Rebecca, we'll have a look at it and reach out if something we think that's quite good.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Lintel's done some work as well with the road service here. I'm not sure it's not called the road service anymore, Department of the Environment or something. On different things, and so there some great.
Yeah, no, we've done. It's a company that's been around, just spun out actually, but it's a product that's been around since 2018 and done a lot of work with road service, Office of National Statistics, Belfast City Council, and so on. There's been lots of different use cases and so on for the need to have data cleaned. Even though we did, it was a coding challenge back in last year. The end of last year, about taking in the Hansard data, so the meetings from the Stormont, and being able to clean that and being able to, so looking at natural language as well, so structured and unstructured data. So it's not focused on one type of data set. It can take in any kind of data, be that numerical, structured, unstructured, or any format, JSON, XML, YAML, CSV, or whatever, and provide you with outcomes. Geospatial is a big one as well. But yeah, I'll send I'll paste a link, and
perfect.
Everyone can have a look at that if they want.
Cheers, Rebecca, thank you.
So bear with me. Yeah.
Okay, so it's 25 past 10. If we break for say 20 minutes, is that okay? And get back at 10:45. I was putting myself under pressure there, doing miles in my head, but yeah, 10:45, and we'll hear from Colin from Anaeko. So I'm going to pause recording, and then Colin, I make you host, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
No.
So thanks, Gillian, and thanks to Digital Surge for inviting me to present here and hopefully share some of my experiences of big data. So what I will do is share my screen. And hopefully you can see that now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so over the next 25 minutes, I'll take time here to share some of my insights on how to deliver data value. It was very interesting to hear Zach and Jake talk through Power BI, which is one of the tools we use in Anaeko. But the questions are absolutely right. Is firstly, where does this information come from? How do you manage the quality? And most importantly, when you're trying to deliver a data project, how do you derive value from it? So in this session, I'll give a brief introduction to myself and what we do at Anaeko. I will describe the common terms at the start. Gillian referred to some of the classic definitions of big data. There's other perspectives on there as well, and in particular looking at how best to manage that. And one of the key important factors we find in a successful data project is how to manage data stakeholders. So I'm going to use 5 different examples of different projects of different scales, some with international customers and some here in Northern Ireland, that are both small and large examples of how you need to manage data stakeholders to ensure a successful project. And at the end, I'll sum up and leave time for questions. So who are Anaeko? We are a data specialist company headquartered here in Belfast, as Gillian rightly said, with an office in Enniskillen and other offices in Zagreb and Croatia. We've, quite similar to Allsop, delivered 500 data projects. That's about a team of 75 data engineers. We've been operating over 18 years, and we have a 100% repeat satisfied customers. So we tend to deliver small projects and come back because data is an ongoing project. There's always a maturity you want to achieve. And my career, I've been involved in data since I graduated out of Ulster University, and been working here in many industries in Northern Ireland, applying data in many industries here. In Anaeko, our mission is to deliver societal and environmental good by enabling timely access to quality data. So we've done a lot of big projects for, I guess, banks and entertainment companies and big technology innovators. But we really feel that now there's an opportunity to take all those skills we've developed over the years and deliver benefit solving, or at least attempting to solve wherever we can, challenges in health, in environment, and in our society. And what we do is we look to integrate what is available data and available platforms and help sharing of internal and external information. And the important factor there is that a common complaint when someone goes looking for quality data is it doesn't exist. And very often, the best information that can help your organization can exist outside the organization. So yes, you've got internal spreadsheets, and just like Henry Ford said, if you asked the public what they want, they'd want a faster horse. Most companies want a better spreadsheet. But really, that's about sorting their internal information, the way they've done things before, in simple, easy tools, using into more advanced tools like Power BI. But we find that looking outside the organization and open data or licensed data or sharing and information with partners can really help. So we provide this in three main ways. We provide consulting, so we give advice. We provide solutions, and this is really a most common approach, proof of concept, show it working and do that quickly, because nothing drives a business case like the value you can derive in a short space of time. And because these projects run onwards, there's a never-ending requirement to improve and maintain data platforms. And we kind of break down the kinds of work into data discovery. What have you got? So you might have it on files, you might have it in databases and spreadsheets, you might have it in external suppliers that you haven't asked, or you might not yet even been collecting it. So, data discovery is an important first step. What do you have? And increasingly, there's a lot of unstructured data. Companies are accumulating large images, documents. They're not as easily parsed. And many of them have sat on a file system. So what becomes now, as regulation kicks in, you have to understand, does that have sensitive information that needs to be maintained under GDPR and other privacy regulations? You need to assess that quality. You need to look at the risk, because you can be governed by compliance and other areas. And really, you want a prototype. So rapid iteration, showing what you could have, demonstrating what's currently available is always the best way, and planning out. And so that strategy starting leads in then to, the end goals is you want insights to make informed, better decision making. You want interoperability because you want to share the information and data you have with your partners, with your customers, with your regulators. You need to integrate because increasingly systems need to automate. And a goal for many clusters of industries is standardization, but standards take a long time. So we always find there's a lot done before, you have to define what is a optimal standard that people and clusters of companies should be implementing. And everything in the middle is the preparation, the processing, the managing of the cost, the monitoring, the governance, controlling access and auditing that access. And particularly when it comes to both the retention and expiry policies of data and commercially sensitive or personally identifiable information, but also the cost of managing increasingly growing data sets. Understanding the data lifecycle is important. And then into those applications, it's not just the insights that are derived here. There should be an interactive application, and you need a platform and something that we call data ops. So many of you might have heard the term DevOps, which is developing in a continuous monitoring and improving process. It's almost a mixture of operating software as you're developing it and closing the feedback loop. Well, data ops is that specialization where you're recognizing that data itself improves over time, and you need a feedback through that cycle. So the sectors we work on are varied. We've come from a background of building applications and telecoms, working with large system integrators, building products even for Microsoft, and we help build IBM Cloud. But in the top 4 sections there in red is where we put our attention currently. And the health, government, and environment is really that tech for good opportunity. So some of these are local companies, Cradle, Exploristics, working with the Health Trust, the Connected Health Innovation Centre, with TransLink, DVA, Land and Property Services, Northern Ireland Water, and some technology startups and scale-ups over the years, Doorboard, Scurio, RegTech. These were all building data products that were leveraging insights derived to deliver a service. And there's some really large scale examples in here. So Epic Games, who did the Fortnite game that many of you, we analyzed the cost per user per day and predicted, so they could decide to choose one cloud provider over another and how to optimize their development processes. For the Broad Institute, which is Harvard and MIT, it's looking at genomics, and indeed the Sanger Wellcome Trust, they're the largest contributor to the Human Genome Project. So some of those had big, large, scalable environments, and some here are small, simple data. And how that results, typically the hard work is finding and getting the data. The pretty views on top are the visualizations using a combination of tools. So let me comment on big data. What is it? I mean, there are the 5 V's, and I'll come to those in a second. But there's also this definition. So data that's so large, fast, or complex that it's difficult or impossible to process using traditional means. And I'm going to pick 3 examples to explain the 3 parts there. So large, we delivered a monitoring system to monitor some of the world's largest storage environments. And just one of those customers in that storage environment might have managed your whole backup for your laptop, your phone, and your watch. And so that is a combination of hardware, software, configuration that is distributed around the world. And there was a large data collection requirement to aggregate all of the logs from all of the configuration and understand what's going on at a very, very large scale. But that project started off with a 3-month prototype. We looked at logs from a few simple examples, and the same techniques that if you're managing any hardware or machinery, there's going to be software and embedded software, and there's how it's used and the customer feedback. And we build solutions and help to aggregate and pull that information up. And that's part of the discovery. So a data discovery could look to see what's inside those spreadsheets, what's inside those databases. Is the quality any good? Or it could look inside log files and all the meters and telemetry readings that come off the Internet of Things to say, is there anything of value there? So that project about dealing with large scale data starts simple. I will prove a value, and then we scale out the platform and over many years evolve that so that that system now monitors 4 billion gigabytes of storage, so 400 data centers worldwide. Now, more locally, the second example, the map, is there's been a number of projects we've delivered, geospatial projects around Northern Ireland, and one of them was looking at the impact of air pollution on respiratory conditions. So this is an example of fast information, because the air pollution events spiked and disappeared as quick as the weather changes. And even though weather calculations is a huge discipline, and we were not measuring anywhere near the same number of air pollution sensors, we were able to spot spikes in air pollution around the Belfast area, which had a causal effect of people suffering asthma episodes. And by monitoring this, we weren't able to understand yet predict the patterns, but we were able to see the cause and effect. And the fast data meant that it was coming in and needed to be compared really quickly in real time. And the example on the right, complex, we worked on a project for Health Data Research UK. They're collating all of the health data science research data sets and making it available to 7,000 researchers. So from everything from cancer care to COVID response. And these are protected, sensitive data sets that are each unique to the way they've been, the studies that have been performed, and each are very, very differently complex. So part of the challenge here was to understand what is the common searchable means that a researcher could understand. Is there research available that could benefit my study? Now, when you come to managing data, I'm going to use an analogy here. So one of our customers is Northern Ireland Water. We've delivered a number of data projects for Northern Ireland Water, and they are the second largest landowner in Northern Ireland. They're the largest electricity consumer. What you always hear people say is, why in a country where it rains a lot do we have a water shortage in summer? Well, this is why the same is when there's so much data around, why are there still challenges managing data? So the 5 V's, volume, there's a lot of data. It's everywhere, but that data it doesn't have any value until it's processed, until it's moved. And so to move it around the system, there's a velocity, there's a speed it needs to go. And nobody wants to store infinite amounts of data. So most information currently stored is what's called ROT, redundant, obsolete, and trivial. So we're storing a lot of duplicate information generated by social media, videos and shares. Now, some of that might be valuable, but some of it is barely accessed second time. And so it's important that information can be processed through the system in the same way that water, we've got a lot of water, but if water sits around, it's going to get stale. And there's only a finite amount of reservoirs that you can store it in. There's a variety of sources. Where does this information and data come from? So as Gillian and Jake described, you could be pulling off sensors, you could be customer data, social media, internal databases, external providers, partners, feedback from your customers, user-generated data, and that variety is an important factor. Veracity, is it accurate? How can you trust it? And you don't need necessarily, and one of the more information you manage, the more you realize that you can never have 100% confidence in a piece of information, but you can improve your confidence. And a way we often do is to compare multiple data sets to improve the confidence factor. But it's all about the value. It's about how you derive value from this. So if you compare this now to the water network, on the left-hand side, we've got the clean water network. There's reservoirs, that's where the water's coming in. They're coming in from boreholes, from springs. They're of different quality. And we're trying to get it to the consumers, to those data consumers, the households. We need to store it somewhere, so we put it in a reservoir. And then we need to pump it around with a data flow. And this is no difference in a data platform system. And along the way, we need to clean it. So we need to make sure that it's up to the quality we need. And you can get, there is such a thing as being too clean or unnecessarily clean. So in the water industry, you're required to meet clean water regulations that say this is how clean the water is, and yet somebody will tell you, they'll sell you a bottle of crystal spring water because it's even cleaner, but you don't need that all the time. So in the same way, when you're cleaning data, there's a proportion of effort you need to understand. How clean does it need to be for you to get the result? Now then, on the wastewater side of it, compare that, you've got user data. So these households and businesses are generating more information, and that needs to be curated. It needs to be cataloged. And through, just like treatment works, you can archive it off because you don't need to keep all of that information forever. And ultimately, at a part of a life cycle, can delete it. So it's a bit of a gimmicky analogy, but hopefully it kind of compares the fact that just like in any system, there's information everywhere, but the value is only derived by how you manage the flow of that information through the system. So I want to talk about kind of a common statement is I get asked about is about data scientists versus data engineering. And, there is a lot of process generated and by machine learning and artificial intelligence. And there certainly is a need for data scientists. And they're the data specialists who, domain specialists, because they need to know the area they work in. And they're applying those AI and ML techniques to understand large data sets. But for every one of those, you need a large number of data engineers. You need people who can find the information and who can manage that complexity. And we all often see this, that the specialists, and they might be starting off with simple analytics using Power BI. You understand your business, so you're the domain specialist and can use those tools. And the complexity and the cost and effort to go and find and clean data, I mean, that's a burden that needs to happen. And that's typically where we play, because we see this cycle of the integration engineers who are extracting the data engineers curating it, the BAs and data analysts who are then analyzing it, and they're enabling that data analyst or data scientists, I think that it's important as we build data literacy in Northern Ireland and the UK and across the world. It's important to recognize that there's value in and need for those lower level data management skills. So I'm now going to go on to managing data stakeholders. So in our experience of the 500 projects, in my experience, the key success of each data project is determined by how you're managing those data stakeholders. So what do I mean by the stakeholder? It's somebody who has something to gain or lose from the project outcome. And the data stakeholders are those who affect or are affected by the data or use it. And as part of a stakeholder engagement process for any data project, you need to understand the needs and the wants of everyone who can help. And you need to give them a reason to get involved in the project. It's very important to get buy-in because there's going to be a lot of people involved when you start to bring data together. And by bringing those stakeholders together, you can deliver a transformative data strategy. So I identify the stakeholders as the masters. You know, these are the owners, you know, somebody who is accountable for that data set. A steward is somebody who really knows the detail around it and can look into the quality and can is responsible very accurate. And a custodian, somebody who's important, responsible for the governance.
Is around the driver's area.
And from a data user's perspective, then you have different kinds of users. So the data explorers are those who will use the tools like Power BI.
Can everyone just check they're on mute? Can everyone just check they're on mute, please? And I realise the irony of that, of me interrupting you, but there's just a wee bit of background noise. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so on the, you know, of the different kinds of data users, the data explorers, they can, they want to uncover their own insights. So they need self-service interactive reports, and using a tool like Power BI that Zach and Jake presented is a great example where you can start to, with limited training, self-service and delve into interactive reports. You can then have specialists build internal teams, content creators, those who are creating predefined reports or responding to ad hoc teams. You have those who are content viewers, those who are just really there to understand and interpret and make decisions off the reports and insights, and then query experts who can delve deeper into it. And I think that when you think about data producers, you know, some of the important things to consider is the data privacy and permissions, and there is a balance, you know, and usually a tug of war between personal right, you know, a right to privacy, and as we've seen with COVID, an increased awareness of social obligations. Yes, it's useful if I share my information because it could be of benefit to society. So I'm going to go through now one by one 5 different projects that were bringing data together. And this first one was the storage monitoring solution I described. So in this case, the stakeholders, we had an operational team. They were the ones who managed the platforms. They had customer success. Those are looking out to see, are the customers happy? There were a technical support team, these level 2 and level 3 support. They needed low down detailed information. You had procurement. They had to buy hardware. They had customer account owners, data center managers, and then you had key products that were being released on these platforms, and the regulatory and data governance stakeholders. And every single one of them had a different requirement. So what we did was to get 27 different stakeholders in the room and to kind of ask them what was important to them. And of course, they all had a different need. And we had to put that into an order because we were scratching the itch that was easiest at the time. And by solving a problem for each one of the stakeholders, we started to build confidence and buy-in with the platform. And we used prototypes, and now we happen to build this on something called initially Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, Elk Stack. That was put up very quickly in 3 months. But over the years, it got integrated with Salesforce. It used Tableau. We did customized UI. There were all kinds. There were tools like Kibana, Grafana, and Influx being used. So the tool and the technology was not important, but the people had a job to do. And so what we said is, what is the task that you have to do in customer success, and what process do you go through? And we use that to identify a roadmap to deliver that project. And along the way, we got pats on the back from every one of those 27 different stakeholder groups, and delivered a valuable system that was delivered over 4 years, when the first 3 months were where we demonstrated the value. In a second example, closer to home, working with Northern Ireland Water, they have a fleet of 700 vehicles. They want to move to electric vehicles. And so they need to know when's the right time to switch. And some of the things you need to understand is which journeys are appropriate, and which vehicles are most costly and best time to be replaced, and which vehicles use which fuel, because there was both bunkered fuel that they fill up before they leave the NI Water yard, and what they call forecourt fuel that they will buy when they're out and driving around the country, solving, looking at burst mains and solving, making sure water is delivered cleanly, safely, and healthily to all of us. So one of the key lessons on this one is most of the information was coming from third-party suppliers. So NI Water did not have the expert view on their fleet telemetry. They were using a third-party provider. They had a third-party supplier to track their vehicles, and simple things like looking at journeys. So a journey could be that they drove out to visit a customer, address a problem, and return, or a journey could have been they moved the vehicle around in the yard because it was in the way. So we discovered some very interesting ways that whether we counted a journey in some statistic views versus others. And so as we started to go around the cycle of iteration, we increased NI Water's understanding of how their suppliers in fuel and in asset tracking and vehicle tracking, how they understood that world. So it's always good to get a good understanding of who's providing the external data and how they view the world. The third example here and lesson is taking that geospatial hub and dashboard, and we've delivered a few in Northern Ireland, where we were combining open data from Open Data NI. We were looking at healthcare data. We were looking at transport planning, community care information, and these were coming from a wide range of sources. So when you bring all of those views together, they don't all align. And particularly in geospatial terms, they don't all use a postcode. They don't all use, there's things like wards, and they could be using GPS coordinates. They may have their own proprietary ways and polygons here, as you might see on the map. So what we did is to harmonize these, and you can always roll up, but you can never add detail. So you can take an ultra local point like a street and say that that's within this postcode, but you can't uniquely determine, as you know, the other way around. So in that example, what we did is overlaid all these concepts into a visual interactive map, allowing those to drill down and really just highlight in simple color scales, where in one case we were looking at food poverty. So we were comparing where individuals, where isolated vulnerable people during COVID times, whether or not they could get access to food delivery services, whether they were likely to be home owners on their own. And without identifying an individual, we could say these were areas that were poorly supported and these were areas that were well catered for. And the next lesson I want to pass on is about balancing the burden of publishing data with the utility of consuming it. So for Health Data Research UK, with 7,000 researchers looking to get at 700 research data sets provided by 70 or 80 trusted research environments, there was a cost to publishing this metadata catalog that allowed the researchers to discover what was there. And you didn't want to, if you made it too complex for each provider of a data set to publish their data set, well, you know, they weren't going to see the value in doing it of its own, or at least they were going to publish their data less frequently. And so what we did was to create a visible feedback loop. It was one thing. So we said, yeah, we've got platinum, gold, and silver metadata catalogs. And so we kind of rewarded rather than mandated that those publishing data sets could, they got rewarded and recognized for creating a richer profile to describe the information they had. And we also did a feedback loop on the search. So who was searching for which kinds of data sets and what was the important information to include. But it's very important internally and in many organizations, if you ask somebody to clean up a legacy database or apply quality improvements to a data set, you have to do that incrementally, and you need to show those who are tasked with keeping that quality high the reason for doing that. Now, the last example and lesson here I'll share is about sharing stories, not reports. So another one of our projects for Northern Ireland Water was to improve their view of residential customers. So we don't have residential metering of water supply here. And consequently, there isn't a billing relationship. That's normally how large organizations most know their customer, is through their bill, because they always interact with their bill. And so their customers included sites that are being built, troughs that are feeding cattle and farms, you know, and supply. And so as we brought together the land and property services and OSNI data and NISRA data and post office data, you know, you started to spot anomalies. And what we used was simple examples to explain to the NI Water team why there was a difference. And for example, we used the satellite imagery to mark how 3 different data sets showing the same new build estate, why one property appeared on one system rather than another. And it's because water got turned on at this time, because the rates got applied at this time, because the builders were aware of it at this time. And similarly, when you looked inside an individual postcode, an address, you got buildings that then got split open, and people didn't mind when, as properties get sublet, and they don't correct the postcode address file, because you're still dropping the post through the same letterbox, and 3 different families sharing that same main door letterbox still get their post. Whereas, so there are different reasons why information gets changed and becomes more accurate. And we found that by using stories and specific examples of building sites, of street addresses, of inside a metering system, these were a great way to explain to everyone involved in the project why there was an anomaly. So to kind of sum it up, I do think that the 5 V's of big data are absolutely the classic definition, but most of the projects we deliver don't have all of those. They will typically, but they will always need to demonstrate value, but they may not have as big a volume as I'm describing for those storage companies. They mightn't have the velocity of which you're measuring real-time air pollution. They won't have the variety, of pulling together all of this complex health data, but they all have to deliver the value. And so I'll just leave you then with that final kind of summing up, which is to say, whenever you're delivering the data project, talk about the process to the people, and the technology will come second. Whenever there's an external data supplier, you really need to understand how they view the world. It'll take a long time to standardize, so harmonize, bring it together. Remember the burden of keeping data accurate and balance that with the value. And when you're explaining the benefits, take that report and certainly use that, but give a real world story. We call it data storytelling. And I think I will leave it there. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
That was brilliant, Colin. Thank you very much. I love the analogy of the water and the data. I think that was really explained it well.
Okay.
Has anyone any questions for Colin? You can put them in the chat or unmute yourself and shout out. Anyone coming through there? If you want to make me host again, Colin.
Okay,
please.
I will do that.
But there's a lot there, and I know, like you finished off there saying as well about you don't have to have all those 5 V's. And Chris from Adore Board spoke at one of our webinars before, and I know you know Chris, and he was saying like they managed to do some really good insights for Allstate on new starts with 90 replies to the questionnaire. So
right.
you absolutely it was good data that had insights, but there wasn't a lot of it. So always just think what you do have available as well. I have a surprise guest speaker for you. Simon, do you want me to make you host? Have you anything to present or?
No, I have no slides, I'm afraid. All you have is me. I hope that's going to be okay. Hello, Colin. How are you?
I'm good, Simon. And you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. I very much enjoyed that last bit of the presentation that I was able to see there. It was brilliant. So it was great. Sounds like everybody's learning a lot.
Colin did touch, and the reason I messaged Simon during that, Colin, was because you touched on, keeping data safe, making sure permissions, all that sort of stuff. So Simon is the CEO and co-founder of Vertical Structure, but also the chair of NI Cyber. So I just thought I would ask Simon Long to give you a quick overview of a scheme that's open to companies at the minute.
Yes, so firstly, thanks very much for having me along to chat, Gillian. Yeah, I mean, just around security and and around things like that. I mean, we've been working with Anaeko and some of the team over there for an awful long time now. One of the things that we always have to be aware of when we're dealing with data is that actually, in some cases, it's not our data. In many cases, it's not our data. We're processing it on behalf of somebody. So that means that we have an added responsibility to make sure that we're looking after that data. And it's really, really important that we continue to make, to protect it in as best a way as we can. Whether we're going to get fined because everything goes horribly wrong or not, it is somebody else's data. So we've got to be aware of that. And I think that's a really important thing to start with. And, I know that it's something that the team at Anaeko are very, very, kind of strong on and very, very keen to make sure that they are securing. So, it's always good to bear that in mind. Just to give you a little bit of a kind of an understanding, we are Vertical Structure. We do three things. We do cybersecurity training, whether that's through cybersecurity and social engineering awareness training, which is very non-technical, or some very technical stuff. So we teach people how to break things in AWS. We're an AWS Select Consulting partner. I think I have a logo here. We're an AWS Select Consulting partner, so we teach people how to break your own stuff, which can be really, really useful to be able to do. We also run courses around threat modeling, and threat modeling is a really useful way for you to be able to understand how your data is, could be compromised. So it's really important to think through the possibilities, and it's not being, kind of scaremongering or any of those things. It's trying to think realistically and practically, what are the problems? Okay, so that's one of the that's training side. We also do security and penetration testing, where we break things for fun and profit. I would say to people that we have we have some fantastic people in the team, some of whom are kind of masters, doctorates, all that sort of stuff, and some who left school at 16 and are terrifying, but they're just very glad they're on our side. So there's lots of breaking of stuff that happens. So and finally, from the side of the consulting, we help organizations to do things like implement ISO 27001 certified information security management systems, and we've recently become Northern Ireland's newest certifying body, of which I believe there are very small amount on the island of Ireland, and especially in Northern Ireland. So that's one of the schemes that is currently underway, is that there is a fully funded Cyber Essentials Plus scheme available from the National Cybersecurity Centre and from IASME, who are the accrediting body. And that is for organizations who have fewer than 49 employees, which my understanding is everybody here today will be fewer than 49 employees, but also if you are a charity. So if you're a charity, maybe creating tech for good or something like that, and you have a charitable organization associated with you, then you are eligible for that. You are eligible for 3 days of free consulting and going through the Cyber Essentials Plus certification. Also, if you work with legal aid, you are also eligible for this. So if you do any work that involves legal aid, you are eligible for the Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus fully funded. So that could be something where you're working with a legal firm to help them to understand this this way of producing data about their clients, or data about what's going on. So they're two very kind of useful areas, and I know a lot of tech people are very generous. They give their time to lots of charities and to lots of cultural organizations and things like that. So if you are one of those people who sits on a board or anything like that of a charity, and you'd like some assistance to understand your security, then you can then that's a fully funded scheme to do that. So do get in touch. I would also say that if with my NI Cyber hat on, and I think, Gillian, we actually do need to buy some hats. We'll have to get some FBI type hats with them on. With my NI Cyber hat on, I would say that if the work that you do involves anything to do with cybersecurity, if you have any kind of impact on any cyber areas, then come and have a chat with us at NI Cyber. We're trying to represent the full cross-section of cybersecurity, everybody from consulting organizations like ourselves, all the way through to people create new cool software around around authentication using some of lip movement or heart biometrics or something, anything like that. So if anything you're doing is involving cybersecurity, give us a shout. We'd love you to come along and join. We're trying to get much more formalized this year. 2023 is going to be a very big year for the cluster. That's at the moment it's volunteer led by myself, Gillian, and by our colleague Judith from CSIT, who you may well have met as well along the way. So do let us know if you're interested in any of those sort of bits and pieces. Apart from that, I hope that you have a fantastic time on this course. It sounds like on this program. It sounds like there's been some really good stuff going on already. I'm just going to be cheeky and put our contact email in there. So just drop us a line there if there's anything that we can assist you with. Okay, brilliant. Gillian, thank you so much.
Thank you, and I know I really sprung that upon you, but it just didn't occur to me until Colin was speaking. But so yes, Simon's put the email there. I put his LinkedIn profile as well. Do connect. And yeah, if you're a charity or working with legal aid, but even Simon does run free CPD certified social
cybersecurity and social engineering awareness. There you go.
Training online once a month.
Yes.
So do connect with Simon on LinkedIn. That's CPD certified.
And also next month we do have a fantastic speaker coming to us from England, talking to us about the Data Protection Act and the impact that kind of cross-border transfers and things like that can bring. So that's on the first Tuesday of January. We might have moved it to the second Tuesday. Get in touch. And I'll send it, Gillian, if I may, I'll send you the link to register out. It is fantastic. He's a great speaker. He's been on before, and he'll really help you understand about data protection and what you need to be doing.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, and thank you, Colm. And I know the guys from Allsop have had to shoot off to help to work on customer stuff. But thank you to everyone for coming along. I think I put the feedback form in the chat somewhere. Please do, can you take 2 minutes to fill that in? I'm frantically trying to find it again. Copy. Paste. It really is useful for us if you can do that, and it's really straightforward. I tried to make it as straightforward as possible. But thank you all for coming along. I have hopefully recorded today, and it does take me a while to get it onto YouTube, but I will do that, and you're very welcome to be there. And Colin, I'll share the slides that I'm allowed to. Certainly, I know people have been asking. Simon's put the link into that Cyber Tuesday event as well. So thank you all very, very much for coming along. I will let you go now, and it's nearly lunchtime, but next session is next Wednesday, and it's AI, and I'll be announcing with some speakers already. FP McCann mentioned, and a couple of calls today just to finalize. Yes, Cahill, I'll do that. I'm just finalizing some more speakers, and so keep your eye out on that. But thank you all very much. I'll let you go, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.